All right, welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing with Ian Sandusky, Lakewood Machine and Tool. Got to represent. Super excited to have you on the show again. You've been on, I think you're really early in my podcast journey, so I appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me back. It was a blast last time, and I'm expecting the same this time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about what's going on in the industry right now. You know, you hear whispers and stuff when you go to different customers, and maybe just your overall, idea of what's going on in the industry and kind of what's to come.
Right. So, everybody knows about tariffs. Everybody knows about supply chain disruption. It is confused out there. I would put it that way. I see some industries out there that are doing really, really well in regards to like machining and manufacturing, and across the board with those little exclusions, seems like everybody is down. Speaking to some guys, especially in the machine tool sales end of things, they're saying that they're seeing machines move and just plain economic activity around manufacturing, at least here in Canada, lower than it was in 2008, which was, the great financial crisis, which was shops got wiped out. Although it hasn't been going on as long as that, the actual, manufacturing activity, from what they're telling me, is down. I was just at a giant die caster yesterday. They're one of the biggest in North America. They're a publicly traded company. They're tier one, so they do all the, engine housings, whatever, for half the cars in North America. They're even looking at branching out in maybe some other industries to serve because they're seeing it slow down so much. It's, automotive is obviously getting affected a lot. A lot of the tier one guys are probably feeling that. Aerospace, people aren't buying a ton of planes right now. But the defense end of things, unfortunately, when things get a bit rocky out there, those guys are probably going to be doing okay. The one thing that I am seeing right now is a lot of niche collapse. So, when we talk about when you start a machine shop, if you have normal machines and you just do work for anybody that anybody can do, your competition is everybody. So we always say, try to find a niche, get really good at doing one thing, and it's hard to compete with. We're seeing a lot of those niches get disrupted right now. And I'm not sure what's driving that, but companies who have done really well for a long time doing, this segment really, really well are telling me that the demand has gone down. So I don't know what's driving that, but, that used to kind of insulate you from the larger industry trends. But now I don't know if that's such a safe play anymore.
Is that due to some of these OEMs and suppliers picking up some of those jobs? So now they're instead of Okay.
A big thing we're seeing too, at least in Canada, and I've heard this from some of the guys in the States, is I don't know if it's specifically private equity, but there seems to be a roll-up going on in the shop industry. So a lot of small shops are getting bought up into larger organizations. I've had probably 30 inquiries about selling Lakewood this year. I don't know how serious any of them were, but that's abnormal. Usually it's a couple of years. So I wonder if something related to that, maybe rolling some of these smaller companies up and supercharging them with private equity money, making it harder to compete with. I'm not too sure, but it's something weird is happening out there.
That's interesting. I mean, that means you're on the right path too, obviously, because it's nice to get those offers, but then I wonder, what advice would you give to someone who maybe just started a machine shop and they're getting approached? Because my first initial reaction is definitely don't sell. Like, you want to build that up. You want to continue to build that legacy kind of deal, right?
To me, it's kind of, what do you want? I mean, when you look in the tech arenas, what do those guys do? They build a company to sell it. Their goal is not generally to build a company that lasts 30 years with them at the head, kind of guiding it. They want to build it so they can make an exit for X millions of dollars. Unless you're doing something really revolutionary, that's not even really a thing in manufacturing, unless you come up with a product that no one has seen before and someone wants to acquire it. So generally, my advice, of course, would be you can do a lot better on your own, set your own hours, work for yourself. It's a lot more fun. And at the end of the day, a lot of these big private equity firms, I mean, we've seen it across every industry. They come in, they'll throw a bunch of money at you, and then they'll want to extract as much of it as they can. And your company isn't really the company it was. So if a little bit of money off the bat sounds good to you, go for it. I probably wouldn't recommend it, though.
Yeah, I wanted to hear from you too, because I don't have any familiarity with it, but just my initial reaction, it's like, if someone's offering you money for your company, that means they see the potential there. So, look for the potential in yourself, build it up, and then decide what you want to do, whether that's, pass it down to your children or sell it. I mean, but like you said, ultimately, what's the end goal? Is it to make a profit, or is it to build a legacy and have the flexibility and the stress of being an owner?
And to me, I mean, I at some point. I don't have any kids, but I would much rather look at, down the road selling it to one of my guys. Figuring out, hey, listen, I want to make an exit in 10 years. I'm 60 years old. I'm 70 years old, whatever it may be. Figure out a way to keep it employee owned. Maybe three of them want to buy it together. We can figure out a 10-year plan to get it over to them, show them how to run it. And now it's something that can also benefit other people, right? As opposed to selling it to PE and now a couple of investors get rich. It's always better to see if you can help hand off your equipment at least, or your company, to other people in your local area. Even better if they work for you so you can help them and kind of keep the local economy going, keep the small shops going rather than liquidating them for nothing.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a good idea. I know a lot of companies that have done that. The owners are like, all right, one or two guys will split or work off that, company essentially and buy themselves out. So that's pretty cool.
That's a good thing to do if you have the chance. I mean, there's so many people out there that would kill to have the opportunity to have a shop, would kill even just have the opportunity to have the equipment. If you don't have the ability to sell your company outright to one of your people, A, try to figure it out, but B, at least don't just auction off your equipment to a liquidator. Like, that can do so much for so many small businesses. See if there's a way you can make it work, as your last give back to the industry if you're exiting it.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a good point. As far as it's hard, I know we can't predict the future, but based on the current trend, what do you think is going to happen? Like, do you think, is this all so unpredictable that we can't really make assumptions, or are there some light of hope?
I think, so my old man started this company in 88. So even just looking back through the records, I've been here almost 20 years. I've seen a lot of the ups and downs. This is a unique situation with the economy and everything the way it is. But at the same time, things like this have happened. At the end of the day, as long as companies can focus on staying open, keeping people, because if you lose your people, that's knowledge leaving the industry you're not going to be able to get back. So keeping your people, keeping the lights on, and being there when the phone starts ringing again, start taking those orders, those companies will do very well. The companies that over leverage themselves right now, don't have that dry powder for when things get rocky. Hopefully they can make it through. We don't want to see anybody close, but it is going to be a more difficult ride for them. Ultimately, hate it or love it, some manufacturing, because of what's going on, is coming back. I've seen it even up here in Canada, companies that were manufacturing overseas bringing it back. So I do think we are going to see a resurgence in American manufacturing and North American manufacturing. I don't think it's going to be all manufacturing. I think really the focus on high value, quick delivery time, stuff that is IP sensitive, those markets are going to continue to grow because we've seen what happened when these supply chains get disrupted. You can't get a part for 6 weeks, can't get it for 6 months. So I think that's going to keep getting bigger. That'd be my prediction for this year, is to see that trend continue. Ultimately, I think at the end of this, whenever all the tariffs get resolved and the economy kind of figures out what it's doing, I think we're going to be back to kind of that post-COVID boom. I think everybody was kind of holding back on manufacturing stuff right now. There's going to be a glut of it getting released once everybody, feels stable and happy enough to start putting out orders.
Yeah. One thing that stood out too is when you think of retaining employees, what does that look like? What are some steps that someone could take to help with that retention?
Yeah, so keeping the people at the top is obviously most important, not from just a business standpoint, but and when I say people at the top, I mean really experienced machinists. I don't mean middle management. I don't mean anything like that. The people who have the most knowledge right now are already starting to leave the trade. So if you incentivize them by saying, hey, you're getting laid off, well, I'm 2 years away from retirement, I'm just going to call it quits. That's going to have a huge knock-on effect to being able to train other people in your organization. So retaining them is key, but also retaining the people at the entry level is key. It's very hard to get people interested in manufacturing. If we got them interested and then 2 years later we're saying, hey, guess what? This is what it can be like working in this industry. You're laid off. They're probably going to go into financial services or something, right? So trying to make sure that you are monitoring your cash flow to keep everybody paid is the best. After that, if you have to start cutting hours, trying to cut them evenly, cut your management hours. As an owner, to me, you should have your own reserves. So if you got to take a hit yourself, you do that in order to keep it going. Really making sure, whenever we get slow, people go, oh, I'm slow, I have no work. I go, great, we have an opportunity to train right now. We haven't had time for 6 months to show somebody how to do something new. Great, let's do that. Focusing on trying to train people up while you have the chance is the best thing you can do when you're slow. Do that as long as you can, and eventually that phone will start ringing again.
Yeah, absolutely. And now when you talk about training, what type of training? Hands-on training from more experienced people, like, hey, watch me, shadow me, I'm going to explain everything to you kind of deal.
Exactly. Like if I have an apprentice and he was running a job on one of my machines, that job runs out, I got nothing to go in that machine, say, I'll say, hey, listen, you're going to go shadow the guy that's been doing this for 30 years. You're just his helper for the next 2 weeks. Whatever he does, you do. And, learn by osmosis. Watch the way he does things. Watch the way he programs. And then as that goes on, it can be great. I don't care because, we're not in a rush. Here's a job. I want you to try to program it by yourself for 6 hours, after you've been shown. This isn't a throw to the wolves thing. But take your time, figure it out, engage your brain, and then we're going to come back and help you so you get that opportunity as opposed to when we're trying to get stuff out the door, I'll just do it myself, right? Kind of get that development going. And then aside from that, obviously training courses online, if they exist, where they exist, I should say, it doesn't need to be super formal. There's a lot of great resources out there that your guys can use in your shop tomorrow if you had some time.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so important that you recognize that too, the importance of training employees, and then, not only because a lot of people think it's just compensation. It's not. It's the environment. It's everything. Training, what you're putting into them, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can pay someone everything in the world. I mean, obviously there's a limit where a lot of us would do a lot or would do nothing for a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, at realistic wages and stuff, people need to feel like they're growing, and they need to be growing, need to be developing, and, training's the way that happens. And it doesn't need to be as formal as I'm sending you on course, but making sure you talk to your people and say, let's set a goal for this year. You don't know how to run wire EDM? This year, our goal is by the end of it, you are going to run wire EDM, or you are not so good at live tooling. Let's get somebody in here who knows it. Let's talk about it. Try to figure it out. Those are going to, like you say, really help retain staff from a interest standpoint. And also then you can pay them more because they know how to do more. Everybody wins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. I appreciate the knowledge that you bring to the industry. I know I was just talking to someone recently who really looks up to you, and I've heard that quite a bit. So thank you for everything that you do in the industry. You may not even realize how many people you're helping. I'm sure you get messages, but there's a lot of people in the background that watch your stuff and really learn from it. So
I appreciate that, but I just like cool stuff. I like manufacturing, and I like showing what we know and what other people know. I talk to a lot smarter people than I am, so I hope to highlight them and show what they know. Get that information out there.
Yeah, awesome, Ian. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.